ABC General Hospital spoilers reveal that one of the most haunting and emotionally charged storylines currently unraveling in General Hospital revolves around the unrelenting suffering of Sasha. What once felt like a tragic but hopeful arc has now twisted into something much darker, something that reflects a deeper, more psychological kind of torment. Her pain is no longer just a plot device. It has become an obsession, both narratively and symbolically, as if the weight of every tragedy in Port Charles is now being funneled directly through her. Sasha's agony has evolved into a kind of emotional currency for the show, fueling high-stakes drama, but also revealing a terrifying truth: she has become the embodiment of unresolved trauma. The face of a system that keeps rewriting pain into her life with surgical cruelty. And what's even more unsettling is that this isn't just a continuation of old wounds, it's a manifestation of a new, calculated shift in the storytelling itself. This is one of the most disturbing transitions GH has made in recent memory, and it's built on the dismantling of one woman's hope. From the moment she entered Port Charles, Sasha has been a character defined by endurance, poisonings, drug addiction, heartbreak, betrayal, the death of her infant son, Liam, the devastating loss of her husband, Brando, a horrifying stint at Ferncliff, where a corrupt doctor nearly destroyed her mind and body. She was manipulated by Gladys, lied to by lovers, exploited by legal systems meant to protect her. And now, even in what should be the most joyful time in her life, the birth of her daughter Daisy, Sasha remains trapped in a narrative of spiraling torment. But something is different now. The pain Sasha is experiencing doesn't just feel like another random tragedy. It feels calculated, engineered, controlled. It feels like one of the show's most deliberate emotional realignments to date, a signal that General Hospital is making a quiet but forceful adjustment in the way it treats suffering. Especially female suffering. Sasha is no longer just reacting to trauma, she is becoming a canvas for a more systemic, almost ritualistic layering of psychological distress. Her storyline is evolving into one of obsession, not only for the characters surrounding her, but for the writers themselves. She has become the constant, the guaranteed trigger for anguish and collapse, and it is this consistency in her suffering that makes her arc so terrifying to witness. And yet, beneath the trauma, something else is quietly taking shape, something that fans are beginning to suspect. Sasha may no longer be just a victim. She may be quietly planning her escape. After everything she's been through, Sasha is beginning to see the patterns. She's beginning to recognize that healing in Port Charles isn't always possible. Especially when the systems built to protect her only seem to further her destruction. She's learning, perhaps more painfully than anyone, that in a town fueled by secrets and shadows, survival is not granted, it's taken. And so, Sasha is starting to change. Insiders have begun to speculate that Sasha may have a contingency plan. A carefully guarded strategy that she's quietly preparing behind the scenes. While others continue to underestimate her, while Willow manipulates her, while the hospital watches her unravel. While the family courts question her ability to mother, Sasha is, perhaps, already packing her emotional bags. She's watching. Waiting. Choosing her moment. Not because she's giving up, but because she's done playing by Port Charles's rules. She's done waiting for the pain to stop. She knows now that peace won't be handed to her, it must be built, protected, and sometimes found far away from the very people who claim to love her. This growing awareness marks one of the most unsettling shifts currently happening in the show. It's not just that Sasha is suffering, it's that her suffering is being weaponized. Used as leverage. Measured and meted out in doses that keep her just functional enough to stay on screen. But never whole enough to thrive. And that realization is driving her transformation. For the first time in a long time, Sasha isn't just surviving, she's preparing. Fans believe she's collecting resources, reaching out to silent allies, researching custody laws, making quiet contacts outside Port Charles. She may even have a secret destination already chosen. Somewhere no one will follow her. Somewhere Daisy can grow up free from the shadows of Brando's death, Gladys' betrayal, and the chaos of the Corinthos family. And that possibility, that Sasha might leave not in defeat, but in silent defiance, is what makes this arc so compelling and so chilling. If she leaves, it will be because she finally realizes the cost of staying is too high. That Port Charles has become a place that feeds on her wounds, not one that heals them. That every time she rebuilds, someone or something is waiting around the corner to rip it all apart. And if that's the case, then her exit won't be tragic, it will be revolutionary. This is the new adjustment happening behind the scenes in General Hospital. Not just in casting or storyline direction, but in the show's emotional architecture. Sasha is becoming the proof of concept for how far a character can be pushed before the narrative must either evolve or collapse. Her suffering has become a measuring stick for audience tolerance. And her potential departure could mark the beginning of a larger purge, one that replaces endless trauma with earned redemption, or burns everything down in the process. So now, fans are watching every gesture, every silence, every time Sasha looks out a window or lingers on a photograph. Is she saying goodbye? Is she waiting for the right time to run? Has she already made her move without anyone realizing it? And most of all, will anyone stop her? In a world where chaos reigns and loyalty is a currency no longer worth trusting, Sasha's backup plan could be the only thing standing between her and total collapse. Or, it could be her quiet revolution, a final act of self-liberation from a city that has never allowed her peace. One thing is certain, her story is no longer just about pain. It's about power. And for the first time, Sasha might be ready to take hers back. The revelation that Brando is still alive is not just a plot twist, it's a psychological reckoning. A deeply embedded emotional upheaval that threatens to unhinge Sasha in ways no previous trauma ever could. In a show where resurrections are sometimes expected, even welcome, this one feels different. It feels invasive. It feels like a betrayal of everything Sasha has worked so hard to accept, to recover from, to leave behind. And it confirms a new thematic obsession brewing beneath the surface of General Hospital, the idea that healing is an illusion, that peace is temporary, and that the past will always find a way to claw its way back into the present. This isn't just a dramatic return, it's the start of a whole new obsession. A chilling adjustment in the storytelling dynamic where emotional closure is no longer possible, and where pain, not peace, becomes the final inheritance. Brando was Sasha's anchor. Her light in the storm. The man who stood beside her through the agony of Liam's death. His supposed loss shattered her world completely. When he died, a part of Sasha died too, not just in a metaphorical way, but in the very real sense that she was no longer the same woman. She spiraled. She unraveled. She was locked away. Gaslight. Drugged. Used. Forgotten. And still, she found a way to stand again. To rebuild. To believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have another chance. So to now learn that Brando is alive, after all that pain, after all that effort, after all that grief, is not a reunion. It's a desecration. A cruel, almost surgical unraveling of every scar she had so carefully covered. And what makes it worse, what makes it unforgivable, is the question that follows immediately after the shock. Did he choose this? Was Brando hiding? Was he forced into it? Was he held by the WSB? Did someone fake his death for leverage? Or, more chillingly, did Brando let her suffer all these years while he lived in the shadows, watching from afar? No answer will be clean. No version of the truth will be kind. No outcome will leave Sasha untouched. She's now caught in a brutal internal war, between the part of her that still loves him and the part of her that remembers how much she bled to survive his loss. This revelation will ripple far beyond Sasha herself. It will destabilize Cody, who had started to become a meaningful presence in her life, only to be yanked away by the cousin twist and Brando's ghost. It will reignite old tensions with Sunny, with Gladys, with the entire Corinthos circle. Brando's return threatens to undo everything Sasha has tried to redefine about herself, especially as a mother. She built a world for Daisy on the ashes of Brando's death. She formed her identity as a single, grieving, recovering woman trying to raise a daughter in the aftermath of unimaginable loss. And now that loss is being erased. Or worse, rewritten as a lie. And that is what's most haunting, the erasure. Because Sasha didn't just mourn Brando, she became her grief. It shaped her. It informed every decision. It broke her, and she fought to rise anyway. She suffered in front of the entire town. She relapsed. She screamed. She clawed her way out of Ferncliff. And now, all of that is in danger of being retconned. Replaced by a twist that suggests it was all unnecessary. Manufactured. Or even worse, manipulated. This is where the emotional horror sets in, not in Brando being alive, but in what his survival says about Sasha's suffering. Was it for nothing? Was she a pawn in a larger game she never even knew existed? But Sasha is no longer the fragile woman she was when Brando died. This new Sasha is cautious. Hardened. Smarter. And she doesn't trust easily anymore. That's what makes this return so volatile. Because Brando isn't returning to the same woman he left behind, he's returning to someone who might not forgive him. Someone who may not welcome him. Someone who might choose herself instead. And this is where the narrative shift begins to bloom. This isn't just about resurrection. It's about resistance. Sasha is no longer being written as a woman who crumbles. She's being sculpted into someone who refuses to crumble again. And while Brando's return may threaten to reopen every wound, it may also push her to draw lines she never had the strength to draw before. If Brando's return is her final test, then Sasha's response might be the ultimate rebellion. Fans are already theorizing that Sasha may have a backup plan, one that goes beyond survival and into escape. Her desire to leave Port Charles hasn't just been emotional, it's been logical. She has watched her pain become public property. Her breakdowns were consumed like entertainment. Her grief exploited by people like Gladys. Her mind questioned. Her motherhood doubted. So why wouldn't she be building an exit strategy? Why wouldn't she be planning to take Daisy and disappear for good? And now, with Brando's return, that plan might become her only hope. The idea of going back to the woman she was with him may be too much. She may choose, instead, to forge something entirely new. Not because she doesn't love him anymore. But because love is not always enough, not after this much damage. Not after this much loss. This is the new madness unfolding in General Hospital, not just a dramatic resurrection, but a narrative revolution. A moment where Sasha's story pivots from reaction to decision, from chaos to clarity. It's one of the most profound shifts in tone and intention the show has attempted in years, and it positions Sasha as something far more than a survivor. She becomes a force, a woman who has nothing left to lose except the chains of her own trauma. Brando's return doesn't rescue Sasha, it confronts her. Forces her to decide who she really is without grief to define her. And in that decision, a new future opens. One where Sasha is no longer the woman who always loses, but the woman who finally walks away, free, whole, and no longer haunted by a man who, intentionally or not, let her drown in silence. In the end, this twist isn't about Brando at all. It's about Sasha. About her agency. Her fury. Her freedom. And as General Hospital leans into this bold, breathtaking chapter, it becomes clear. This isn't just one of the wildest twists of the year, it's the beginning of Sasha's final transformation. A reckoning. A rebirth. A chance for a woman who has been consumed by grief to rise from the ashes, not for anyone else, but for herself. The decision by General Hospital to recast Brando isn't just a casting shakeup, it's the kind of narrative disruption that sends emotional shockwaves through every corner of Port Charles. It marks the beginning of a new chapter not only for Brando but for Sasha, whose life has been marked by relentless suffering, fragmented hope, and a slow, agonizing crawl toward stability. This recast signals a profound shift in storytelling direction, one of the boldest emotional recalibrations the show has attempted in recent memory. It's more than a return, it's a resurrection. It's not simply about bringing a character back. It's about rewriting the emotional fabric of Sasha's reality and inviting both character and audience to reimagine what it means to live after loss. It's a decision that dares to ask, what happens when the dead come back, not just to haunt, but to heal? Sasha's entire identity has been shaped by Brando's absence. His death was the earthquake that shattered every part of her soul. From the moment he died, her descent was inevitable: crippling grief, addiction relapses, institutionalization, betrayal by those closest to her, and the unbearable loneliness of raising Daisy without him. Her narrative became one of survival in a hostile, unrelenting emotional environment. And just as she begins to claw her way out, just as she starts to build a fragile inner world to protect herself and her daughter, the ghost of Brando returns. But not as a memory. Not as a vision. As a man. With a new face, a changed heart, and a story that threatens to undo everything she believed to be true. This recast isn't about replacing the actor, it's about reimagining the role. Brando's new incarnation brings with it layers of intrigue, questions without answers, and a deep, looming sense of dread. How did he survive? Why didn't he return sooner? Who kept him away? Was he coerced? Brainwashed? Or, most painfully of all, did he choose to stay gone? Every possibility is a dagger pointed at Sasha's already bruised heart. And no matter how much joy his return might eventually bring, it will first rip open every wound she tried to close. But the most haunting revelation tied to his return is that Brando is, and always was, Daisy's father. That confirmation reframes everything. This isn't just a love story, it's a family, shattered and now being stitched together in the strangest, most emotionally volatile way imaginable. Sasha never got the chance to co-parent. She never got the chance to build a home, share a nursery, laugh in the early morning chaos of feeding schedules and sleepless nights. She was robbed of all of it. Now, she faces the unimaginable task of rebuilding that dream with a man who, though familiar in history, is foreign in presence. He is Brando, but not the Brando she lost. Not entirely. And that's where the new obsession begins. General Hospital is writing a storyline that dares to dig deeper into trauma, not just as a device, but as a truth. Sasha's arc isn't about immediate healing, it's about confrontation. About facing everything she buried, the anger, the longing, the guilt, and the truth that somewhere deep inside her, she never truly let Brando go. Every look, every word, every moment shared with this new version of him will be a battle between recognition and disbelief. Her mind will question everything. Her heart will betray her. And as much as she wants to protect Daisy from chaos, she'll realize that there's no hiding from it, not when it lives in her every breath. But what makes this story so transformative is that Brando is not just returning as a former love, he's returning as Sasha's potential redemption. After being broken by grief, swallowed by institutions, betrayed by family, and tormented by Willow's manipulations, Sasha has been suffocating under layers of psychological weight. Brando's return could be the light that pulls her from the darkness, but only if she allows it. Only if she believes it. And only if he's worthy of that second chance. There is something incredibly risky about this arc, and that's what makes it so compelling. The recast Brando must not only capture the essence of the man fans remember, but he must also represent a transformation, someone molded by his own trauma, carrying guilt, haunted by the time he missed, desperate to make it right. He must show growth, resilience, and a desperate need to reconnect with the woman who suffered most in his absence. This is not a casual return. This is a seismic emotional event that could either be the salvation Sasha never thought possible, or the final fracture in a soul that's been breaking for too long. And yet, as overwhelming as the situation is, it also carries with it the seed of possibility. For the first time in years, Sasha could have something she's never had, a real family. A partner. A father for her child. A love not built on borrowed time or doomed circumstances. If this Brando is everything she remembers and more. If he's strong enough to fight beside her rather than disappear again, Sasha might find herself stepping out of the victim role for good. She might stop surviving and start living. Not just for Daisy. Not just for Brando. But for herself. Still, trust will not come easily. Sasha has learned to doubt everything, smiles, promises, goodbyes. And Brando will have to fight through that wall of skepticism and pain to reach her. But if they can rebuild together. Their story could become one of GH's most emotionally layered and powerful arcs in recent memory, a story of loss, resurrection, and healing earned the hard way. This is the kind of madness that only General Hospital can deliver, an obsession not with scandal or spectacle, but with emotional truth. Brando's return isn't flashy. It's devastating. Intimate. Alive with possibility and burdened with history. It's the story of two broken people who never stopped loving each other, even when the world told them they had to. And now, given one more chance. They must decide whether love is enough to rebuild what time, trauma, and death tried to destroy. This is not just a return. It's not just a recast. It's a resurrection with consequences. And for Sasha, it may finally be the beginning, not of more pain, but of something she never dared to believe was still possible, peace. A new storm is brewing in Port Charles, one unlike anything General Hospital has unleashed before. And at the center of this impending eruption stands an alliance forged not out of strategy or politics, but out of pure, unrelenting vengeance. Jason, Brando, and Michael, three men bound by blood, grief, and a fierce protective love for Sasha and baby Daisy, are about to ignite one of the most dangerous and emotionally charged revenge missions the show has ever explored. After months of chaos, trauma, and near tragedy, they are done waiting. Done playing by rules. Done trusting the systems that failed Sasha time and again. Now, vengeance is rising, and it's more personal than ever. It began with Sasha's suffering, years of it. From losing her child to being drugged, manipulated, institutionalized, betrayed by her own family, and targeted by those who saw her as weak. The trauma never stopped. And then, just as she began to rebuild with the birth of Daisy, another wave of devastation struck. Willow's manipulations. Daisy's kidnapping. Sidwell's abduction plot. And somewhere in the shadows, an orchestrator, still unknown, has been pulling the strings, tormenting Sasha from behind the curtain. But that shadow won't remain hidden much longer. Now that Brando has returned, reborn through Recast, scarred by exile, and overwhelmed with guilt over all the pain Sasha endured in his absence, he's no longer content to be a bystander. His first instinct isn't peace. It's fire. And he's not alone. Jason, having narrowly escaped death himself and now back in Port Charles under a veil of mystery, has been watching. Waiting. Calculating. He knows better than anyone how deep this conspiracy goes. And now, with Sasha and Daisy being pulled into danger again, he's activating old instincts, the ones that don't forgive. The ones that don't hesitate, and the ones that always finish the job. Then there's Michael, who has lost too much, and seen too many people he loves suffer. Sasha's pain cuts him deeply. So does Daisy's stolen safety. And as the revelations keep unfolding, Michael's patience is disintegrating. No longer the polished heir of the Corinthos name, he's now something far more dangerous. A father and a brother figure whose anger has outgrown his restraint. Together, Jason, Brando, and Michael are a force that Port Charles has never truly witnessed before, not united. Not driven by the same singular purpose, revenge. Not just to retaliate, but to dismantle the entire operation that nearly destroyed Sasha's life and endangered Daisy's future. And it's not just about Sidwell anymore. It's about anyone and everyone connected to the elaborate web of manipulation and trauma, from corrupt doctors and compromised institutions to hidden allies and criminal financiers. This isn't justice. This is war. And the men are preparing accordingly. Jason handles the logistics, tracking movement, contacts, bank trails, whisper networks. Brando focuses on the threat matrix, who's watching, who's moving in and out of town, who suddenly has something to lose. And Michael, with his wealth and access, begins weaponizing information, targeting every legal loophole, every silent partner, every piece of leverage that can crush their enemies before they even see it coming. But underneath this campaign of calculated destruction lies something more terrifying: obsession. Each man, in his own way, is driven to the brink. For Brando, this is penance. For Jason, it's instinct. And for Michael, it's identity. They're not just protecting Sasha, they're reclaiming power in a world that's tried too many times to take it from them. And as they dig deeper, what they uncover is even more horrific than they imagined: a layered, WSB-adjacent operation involving psychological warfare, fabricated deaths, and systematic exploitation of vulnerable women. Sasha wasn't the only target. Daisy wasn't the only child. Port Charles was merely one chapter in a larger, insidious story, and now, these three men are determined to burn every page. But this isn't without cost. As they dive headfirst into darkness, each of them begins to change. Jason becomes colder, more detached. Brando starts to spiral, battling his own guilt and trauma as he stares into the abyss. And Michael, torn between fatherhood, love, and legacy, finds himself doing things he once swore he'd never do. And then there's Sasha, watching all of this unfold, torn between gratitude and fear. She knows what they're doing is for her. For Daisy. But she also sees how much of themselves they're losing in the process. Her suffering created this war. And now, she wonders, will they survive it? Will they still be the men she loves, trusts, and needs? Or will vengeance devour them all? Still, the reckoning cannot be stopped. The streets of Port Charles are already buzzing with rumors. Someone is coming. Someone is cleaning house. Quietly, efficiently, without mercy. Names are disappearing from boardrooms. Files are being erased. Threats are being silenced. And in the dark, Jason, Brando, and Michael move like shadows, protectors turned predators. This is one of the wildest turns General Hospital has ever taken, a male-driven arc not of rivalry, but of rage-fueled protection. The line between hero and villain begins to blur. Justice becomes obsession. Safety becomes control. And by the time the final target falls, Port Charles will never be the same. Because this isn't just a revenge plot, it's a resurrection. For Brando. For Jason. For Michael. For Sasha. For Daisy. And for the part of this show that has always burned brightest, the fierce, unapologetic love that drives people to destroy the world, just to save the ones they love.